hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography, family.
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 This is the Outdoor Rules Podcast.
Hello.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mike.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
Not bad. I just finished editing the deer camp episode with Sim and Dick.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Hopefully you got some good material out of that. It was a great time getting to be up there with those two guys.
Well, yeah.
Hear some of their stories.
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff there. I think the original is 2 hours and 20 minutes. I edited it down so that we had about a 1 hour episode. I kept most of the hunting and the family stuff. I think we can use a lot of that talk about mining and their early professional lives and stuff. I think I have some other episode ideas to use that on that I think it'll be great for. But for this episode, I just kind of kept the hunting and family stuff.
Yeah. It was, there's just so much, so many questions you have for those guys and so much you want to talk to them about. And when I was done with it, it was like, this was 2 hours. It felt like it went by, in 15 minutes. And I felt like I could have sat there all day and talked to them. You know what I mean? But
you could spend 2 days talking to them.
Right.
And still keep remembering more stuff. Like I still want to call either Sim or Dick up or both of them. I wanted to ask them about the story with Pop Grant and the raccoon up in the tree and see if either one of them remembered that story. So anyway, lots more potential to get there. But no, thanks for doing it. You and Dad did a good job. It's, in deer camp, I mean, the audio quality it's pretty good. It's not perfect considering you guys were all sitting around the big table with one microphone, but I think people will be able to hear it all right. So
yeah, good. It was an opportunity I couldn't pass up, even if I didn't record anything from them, just to be in the cabin with them, and kind of old school deer camp. Yeah, that's kind of how it felt.
No, I wish I could have been there, and I know Matt does too, but thanks for doing it.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
I have it loaded up here. Do you want to listen to it now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's check it out.
All right, here we go.
Hello, everybody. This is Poppy, and we have Mark here, and my Uncle Sim, and my Uncle Dick. You guys want to say hello?
Hello. Hello.
Hello. And one of the things we're going to try to do is, over all the podcasts, we have talked about my uncles and the family, my uncles and aunt and the family, and we thought this was a unique opportunity to speak to the two brothers that are left, and we happened to be at deer camp, so we were here, and I think we'll maybe talk about a few things. I think first I'm going to ask, you want to tell us the order of the siblings that you had?
The order of the siblings was, the oldest one was Cyrus, who died when he was 6 years old of tetanus. And the second one was Wilmer. The third one was Myrna. Next one would have been Edna, Guy, Sarah, Frank, Alan, me, and Dick.
So what year were you born, Sam?
I was born in 1932, and my baby brother was born in 1935.
Correct. So you
that you agree on?
We agree. He was the, what was the Dutch name for the youngest one?
Bupley.
He was the Bupley, yeah. The Bupley was the baby, and he always got away with everything because he was the youngest.
As a youngest, do you feel that? Because I never felt like I got away with everything. everything, Richard? Did you feel like you got away with everything?
Not really. I always thought Dad finally got it right.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good perspective on it. I agree. How old would a pop my pop? How old would a Grant been when you were born, roughly?
Well, Grant was
I'm
born.
not sure.
He was born in
go through the
24.
When who?
Grant was born in 24.
Yeah.
So he's 8 years.
So he was 8 years
8 years
older.
older.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then Al was born in between there. Yeah, so none of the rest of them were born up in Rexmont.
So you guys don't remember anything about Crossroad Farm
No.
when you lived
No,
there?
we were never on Crossroads.
Your memory was Rexmont.
All Rexmont.
From what I understand, you guys grew up on the farm in Rexmont. It was a sharecropping farm, right?
Yeah.
So they did not own the farm. Your
Didn't own the
parents did not own the farm.
They farmed for the half.
And how many of your siblings lived with you guys on the farm? I mean, Wilmer was out by the time you got him.
Oh yeah.
I think Wilmer was already.
Guy was still there.
Guy was still at home. Sarah was
Grant
home.
was
Verna
gone.
was home. Edna was home. Edna left, I think, pretty early. But Verna married late, and Guy, I don't think, married until he was 50. And so he was still at home. Yeah, we
And how many acres did you guys farm?
was it 94 or
About
96?
100. Oh, close to 100.
Well, yeah, I think it was either 94 or
Close to
96, and then we formed the farm where Jeff lives at the same time. So we had to run back and forth with horses to go out and farm what we always called the little farm,
11 acres or something
which
like
was
that.
the one that Pop inherited from his uncle or who?
Kreider?
Kreider, yeah.
Yeah.
And in harvest time, he'd go with harvest time.
No.
Think he had to stay home, take care of the cattle. That would start a fight. He'd come home. What'd you do today? Oh, that did it. That would do it. That would do it.
We talked earlier on in the podcast, I remember, and we were kind of wondering. We said sharecropping. You said farming for the half. Exactly how did that work?
I don't think we considered it sharecropping, but
Well, we could half the wheat and half the corn.
yeah.
Half the corn and half the wheat.
I heard somebody
what
say
about
one time
Ocean?
about picking apples. He took half
I don't
the
think
apple.
it was that. I don't think that was his. That was
Yeah.
the only thing we shared. I think was half the wheat and half the
What
corn.
about the oats? I think the oats too.
I don't believe the oats.
I
They were
don't-
selling oats.
I can't argue because I don't know.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
So what? They take it to the mill and then just divide it?
I think they divided it. I think they divided it at home. I think Pop
Well,
divided
we
it.
had two corn cribs. One was ours and one was hers, the owner. And the wheat was, we had one granary for us and one granary for them.
Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And they'd bag it and
And what was really scary when we were kids was they had if you didn't treat the wheat with some kind of chemical, I don't know what that evaporated,
oh yeah.
and Pop would make us stand outside the door, and he'd go in, and you had weevils that would, if you just put the wheat in the bin, it would these weevils would take over and would heat up, and they'd eat the whole insides out of the grains, and he'd have to climb through those wheat bins and pour this liquid chemical out of a can.
Dump it in, yeah.
And it used to scare. He'd tell us to stay here. If I pass out, to drag me out of here. And he scared the hell out of me to sit there and watch him outside the door, watch him put that stuff in there. And you had to seal the granary up so that when it evaporated, it killed all
go
these
back
weevils.
in no more. No.
Huh?
We never went back in after that.
Yeah, you weren't allowed to go back in for
couple
like
months.
a week or something. I don't know how long. But, and let that kill the bugs. But if you had a little bit of wheat or any grain that you put in there like that, the weevils would destroy it in next to no time. Yeah, so that was always pretty.
I took a beating at the Maristone Fair one time. I had the grand champion pig there, and a bunch of us were sitting around at night, like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and they got talking about Ruhl winning the grand champion. And one guy said, "Yeah, and he's just a sharecropper." Well, I took off after. I took a pretty good beating for that. He said, if he'd have just said a sharecropper, it would have been fine, but he said, but he's just a sharecropper. And that turned me on. And I took a pretty good beating.
Wait, and you won grand champion with a chicken, right?
Yeah.
That was...
Al and I caponized chickens. I always raised capons, which is a what do you call it? You take the testicles out of the chicken.
Out of a rooster.
Caponizing out of a rooster. So you'd start with 100 or so chicks, all male White Rock chickens, and raise them to, I don't know what, like 12 weeks or something like that there, and then you stretch them out across a barrel with 2 quoits and hold the wings one direction and the legs the other direction. And you make an incision in the rib cage.
Maybe.
In the rib cage and pull the testicles out, and then that's ended up how you caponize the chickens. And then we would sell chickens. And I ended up kept the nicest one and put it in with my dad's chickens, and until the farm show, because usually they were ready in November. You could sell them and fatten them up till November and sell them, but so I kept him there to take him to the farm show. And if you didn't caponize them properly and you left a little bit of the testicle in there, they would turn in partially back into a rooster again. And he ended up learning from the other roosters how to crow. And he'd crow like crazy, but I took him in and put him in the cage and won the grand prize for the capon. And when the judge gave him the prize, he left and walked around the corner of the cages, and that rooster crowed like crazy. If the judge would have seen him crow, he'd have disqualified him right away. I don't know what I got, something like $25 a pound for that chicken, which I was pretty proud of at the time. I guess it was nuts, but we did it.
So you guys had a pretty substantial garden then growing up too, I imagine, and canned everything and.
Oh, what?
You guys canned a lot of vegetables and stuff, and
no, we didn't.
Well, your mom did.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up helping take care of the garden. I always hated to weed the garden.
She had that big garden in the back there.
And
it
took a lot of
work, and then she'd make me go work in the garden. I had to stay home. Man, I used to say when I grow up, there's no way I'll ever have a garden.
I never
I did my share.
I haven't raised a tomato since I don't know when, and I never raised another potato since then. We used to have 2 acres of potatoes?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, and you'd have to go out and dig these potatoes with a machine with 2 horses, and then you had to go pick them all up and put them in a big 2-horse wagon and haul them in and store them in the barn all winter. And
they had a potato.
You have a potato barn.
These logs here, I bet that pile almost, not that
high. Enormous
6 foot high, man.
Like you can imagine 4 or 5 acres of potatoes all in one pile. And then he'd cover them with rugs and all kinds of stuff in the winter.
And have one light bulb hanging in. One light bulb.
And then he'd sell potatoes out there. The kids from the mining towns, the parents would send them down to buy potatoes like every week or so. Every Saturday, kids would be there buying potatoes. And he'd sell them in little...
Sit out there and sort by hand.
Quarts, or what's the next size above a quart?
Gallon?
No, something between a gallon and a quart.
Half gallon.
I asked him to go
there was a name for it.
Basketball practice one time. No, he said, you got to come home to help milk. So it was a FFA basketball. It was right after school. So first night, I had to stay. Yeah. I come home, milking was done. For the whole week, every night I had to go out there and sort potatoes by myself. Every night to 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, I'd sit out there and sort potatoes. And Judy Kurtz was the coach.
They weren't very happy with me that I didn't have to milk.
Oh,
I luckily got away from never having
Dad
milk.
didn't like the milk either. He didn't right. He didn't nailed with all the milk. And Al.
Mom would milk 3 or 4 cows every time. And Verna and Sarah all
I used to milk my 2 every morning before I went to school in the morning. Go out and then go in, change clothes. I had to smell from the barn when I went to school. I had to smell from them. Didn't take a shower. You just went in, washed up, changed clothes, went to school.
Yeah. Smelling from the farm reminds me of the post office was in the hotel, Rexmont Hotel. And the woman that was a bartender had to come over in the post office because we were too cheap to buy a box. So they stored our mail in the post office, and we'd have to holler over to the bar to get somebody to come over and give us our mail. So we'd go in there and pick up our mail, and she'd get pissed. We'd keep hollering and hollering for her to come over. Huh?
Tootie.
Yeah, Tootie. I couldn't remember her name. I remember one time she came over and she was unhappy, and she said, the reason I don't come over and get your mail is you have cow shit on your shoes and you stink. I remember I caught hell from Rotunda, the barber too, because I went for a haircut one time and he said, next time wear different shoes.
So now, did your dad hunt?
Just small game.
Just small game, never deer.
Pheasant. No. Never went deer hunting that I know of.
But there was the story was told in the recording that the deer ran out across the pasture.
Yeah, it's the only deer I've ever seen on that farm.
And he refused
right below the garden.
He wouldn't shoot it.
He wouldn't shoot it.
Yeah, he wouldn't shoot it.
He always said he wanted to see it jump the fence when it got to the end of the field, and it did. It walked right up the right. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember.
She'd sort of come up along the creek, along the stream there.
I suspect maybe a dog might have been chasing it or something. I don't know why that deer was out there. I don't think it was in deer season.
It's the only deer I remember that ever seen a deer there. That's the only deer I never seen any before or after.
One thing that we used to always have to, we always hunted rabbits. We busted our butts to get our corn. He wouldn't let us hunt until after we got the corn husk. So we had to really work hard to get we hand husked all the corn and threw it in the wagons and had to haul it into the corn shed, and at night after supper shovel the corn into the cribs. And usually you're shoveling way over your head. From the wagon into the chute in the crib was pretty high. So we always had to do that. We always tormented our dad, and I don't know, Guy or some of them, Grant, your dad, I don't know who did it, but they ended up, there was a rabbit had a nest right below the garden.
I put that there.
Huh?
I stuffed that one.
Is that you? I don't remember who did it.
The corner of the orchard.
They stuffed this rabbit.
He wasn't impressed.
Stuffed it with straw, gutted it, and just had the whole thing, and they set it back in this nest where a rabbit had been in before, and he ended up getting popped to shoot it, didn't you?
He shot.
Yeah.
He wasn't impressed.
Yeah. He wasn't happy that the kid pulled that one on him.
So how did you start hunting? We talked some about that.
Each one of them, we had an old 20 gauge single barrel. I think first we hunted with a 22 if we were like, when we first hunted. But anyway, I remember it was tape on the stock, a little single barrel 20 gauge shotgun.
I think I started with that.
Huh?
I think I started.
I remember walking along with a stick with an empty shell on the end of the stick, just to help chase the rabbits out.
That was a common theme for little brothers with older brothers who hunted. Here's a briar patch.
Hit that briar patch.
Here's a briar patch. Go through
it. Exactly.
I remember Dick one of the first years. I think it was the first year he hunted when they were hunting over there with Rich Cooper, and a rabbit ran out and ran around some of us and ran by Dick.
You come right down over the hill, right in front of everybody.
Yeah, and we all hollered, "Don't shoot, don't shoot!" And he shot, blown the wad right through the middle of the belly of the rabbit.
He gutted him right on the run. Don't shoot, don't shoot.
He never lived the end of that one. We harassed him.
There was nobody in front of me. Why can't I shoot?
But on Thanksgiving Day, we always hunted hard. All day, and Gaius Spots, which was our Aunt Nora's husband, always hunted with us.
And we'd hunt from Rexmont almost out to where Jeff lives now, to the little farm, back and forth.
And we were usually successful in chasing the pheasants or everybody else into that briar patches in what do we call the woods?
Kettridge Woods.
You had this big woods in there, and it seemed all the farm fields were all around that woods, and then they drive those pheasants in there in them big briar patches, And then late in the afternoon, we'd go in there on Thanksgiving Day or on any hunting day like that. We had a bunch of beagles and dogs, and we'd go in there, and pheasants would go every direction. We'd load up with pheasants really fast. That was really a good Kettering's Woods is what it was called. Remember?
And when we come to the end of the cornfield, Grant would always be at the end.
Yeah, Grant out.
He'd be alongside you all the way through the cornfield. When he got to the end of the cornfield, he'd be out there blasting away.
Right. In fact,
get them long legs going.
One of the things I would like to talk about, and what I remember, hunting and the brothers. To start out what I'm talking about, I think Wilmer was always considered the best deer hunter.
Yeah, I would have
best hiker too as walking. I think he can walk better than anybody.
No, I remember as a
but
kid.
He had skills. I thought he had more hunting skills than anybody else.
For deer. I don't remember him ever hunting small game.
He was the best planner. Planning the drives and stuff. He was always a planner.
Yeah, but I remember growing up with, and I don't know why he kind of tried to guide me a lot, but the first time I think I hunted, we went up over above camp here, back where the fields open up in the back. Before you get there, where there's 5 trees used to be.
Yes.
He took me down in there, and he said, "Pick a tree, just one you can climb, and just get your feet above your head level, and hang in that tree, and try to get enough footing that you can hold on." And he said, "I'll be right above you in another tree." I could see him in his tree, and he could see me in mine, and we weren't. My feet weren't much above head level. So you stand under the tree. It's this little tree. And I said, "I can't hunt in this tree." He said, "Yes, you can." He said, "It won't be long." He said, "A deer will be here." So I climbed in that tree before 7 o'clock. I don't know what time it really was. And before I knew what happened, I had a buck standing in front of me and shot it. And it wasn't, I don't believe 5 to 10 minutes later, he shot one out of his tree. And I think probably he was smart enough to know that somebody was going to be hunting from down on the road and coming up through there and pushing deer up to us. And we both had deer before 8 o'clock and got it out, and we're gone.
Well, that's what I remember with Wilmer, with me, and not just talking about me, but Cork and Rick and all of us. If we get a chance to come up here when we first came up, he would go out with us on Sunday, and we'd look around and say, "This is a buck rub, this is a scrape."
Yeah.
He gave us all of that stuff, before, and he would say, "Okay, this is going to happen, and the deer are going to run this way," and they almost always did.
Yeah.
I remember when Rick shot his first buck up on top of Black Diamond. Me and him were driving, and Rick shot, and we come together. I come to Wilmer. I said, "That was Rick." I said, "I'm going over." No, he said, "Rick here." He talked to Rick. I said, "I got to go over." He never got it. "You're coming with me." He wouldn't let me go back. He wouldn't let me go. Rick will take care of it. He's all right. He wouldn't let me go back to him. He made Rick cut it out himself. That's the way he's going to learn.
He was gone. He disappeared.
Rick's fine. You come with me. He said he wouldn't let me go back.
I think the first buck I shot was at the pumping station
he said he's fine.
Cornwall. Not the pumping station, but up at the fire tower. And at that time they were working on the turnpike on the other side of the hill, and they were seeing all kinds of bucks down along there. He said in the evenings people were driving in there and seeing all these bucks. He said, "We'll outsmart them." He said, "We'll go up the fire tower and we'll come down." So the first day of buck season, and he didn't come up at that time. He and Bowman, I think they forced them so they both couldn't come up to camp at the same time, so somebody was still responsible at work. One could go 1 year and the other one go the next year. So that year he had to stay, and so he put me on a spot down about third of the way down to the turnpike, and by 7 o'clock I had a buck and shot it, and that was exactly right what he said would happen. And the deer everybody would hunt from the turnpike, and there was hardly anybody up at the fire tower. And here I had a buck, and he said, if you get one, call call and holler for me. I hollered and hollered and hollered, and he had gone back to work. He had to show up at work at 8 o'clock or something to get people started working. And I hollered my lungs out, and nobody appeared, so I finally didn't have any choice but to cut it out myself and drag it up over the hill to the fire tower, which was a pretty good ways and a hard drag. But I was pissed because he wasn't there to guide me when he said he was going to be. And when I came back and lit into him, he just laughed. He said, "You got to learn to do some of this stuff on your own," he said.
You know, when he was really in his glory, when like if he'd take the drivers out and take you up like all the way up Blue Coat or something to line everybody up, and he'd be way out in front, you know, and they'd get up there and then he'd stop at a steep part, right at the top of a steep part, and he'd stand there. You got within 10 yards of him, he'd start going again. You know, think everybody's going to take him. He just, nobody else got a break but him. He was in his glory when he could do that. You could see it on his face. That made his day. As soon as you got within 10 yards of him, he'd just turn around and start away. He wouldn't say nothing to you, just turn around and walk away. He ate that up. Yeah, he can walk.
When I think I first started hunting the drives at I was 16. And the youngest kids always had to go to the top and flank.
Yeah.
You had to go in ahead of the top. So you usually had 8 to 10 drivers and the same standards in the next
I heard
round.
him now, too.
And that's the way we'd start here and hunt all the way down to, oftentimes all the way down to close to the blacktop. I think one of the times, the last time I remember the drive was at that gate where you guys were hunting this morning.
Yeah.
And we'd start there and drive down to the blacktop.
You hear me say that about how Wilbur would take the drivers up, and he'd always be out in the front, and he'd get up like a steep little bank or something.
He
He'd
did that to
taking
me.
a break, and you got within 10 yards of it. He wouldn't say nothing, he'd just turn around and start walking.
You're
again.
huffing and puffing and thinking, boy, I'm going to be happy to
He'd turn
get
around,
this.
he
As soon as you got there, he took off again.
He'd take off,
Yeah.
exactly. He was in his glory. You could see it on his face.
He did that all the time
Yeah,
to
he
us
loved
kids.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. That was it. He was in his glory when he could do that.
But in the drives I remember that Butch Metley's grandfather had the store in Miners Village, and he and Pete Grandy had a coal business or something, hauling coal. But when they came up here hunting, the old man, they claimed, never drank water, and he always had like a half gallon of wine in his coat, in the Woolridge coat or some kind of containers, I don't remember what. And they all drank wine before they started each drive. And I don't know whether it was true or not, but they all claimed that he never drank water. He always drank his own homemade wine. And I still have pictures of them planting the trees that are all these trees are on the back of the building.
Pine trees.
In the 50s, yeah. Pete Grandy and
Never hear when Matt was here. Never hear.
And the old one, his grandfather's name was Matt too. And they would hunt and work together. And he would, and you had to keep all your game that you shot in small game season. Like we'd come up over Thanksgiving before season and hunted small game a lot before. And everybody had to bring anything in, any grouse, rabbits, anything we could come in.
I was never here.
And Matt would start at 3 o'clock in the morning making spaghetti, stew, or sauce. And he'd cook it all day. And when it was done, we threw all the game into it. Not done while he was cooking it. He cooked the pheasants, the rabbits, the squirrels, everything that we could get. He'd cut them up in pieces and throw them in that spaghetti pot. So when we all sat around there eating spaghetti, you all got big pieces of meat that went with it. And I don't ever remember eating spaghetti that tasted anywhere near as good as what the old man made. It was unbelievable, and I'd still love to eat another dinner like
that,
like they used to cook. And I remember him telling that when they hunted, when times were really tough during the Depression, and they couldn't afford these kids. I don't know how many kids did Matt's uncles. There was a whole family of them, and they would hunt with BB guns, birds like robins and doves and anything around miners' village that they could shoot, and they'd come back and skin out and gut out the robins, and they'd make a big pot of spaghetti with all the same way he made here.
Breast and stuff.
The pressure,
They didn't have
Paul
any.
used to always talk about that.
Going back to brothers and hunting,
Yeah,
Guy, the next oldest brother.
Yeah.
What I remember about Guy, now he would hunt small game with us when I started hunting and things like that.
Guy.
But the thing that I remember that impressed me with Guy is fall turkey season. Almost every year, he with his .22 Magnum, he would shoot turkeys.
Yeah.
That
I
was
carried many of them out for him too.
Yeah.
He was.
And what else?
He was
good
the
deer
one
hunter.
that took me into hunting, and he's the one that when first got my 06, I didn't know what kind of bullet she got. Oh, you got to have 200 grain. For years, I bought 200 grain bullets. They'd knock him down. But he's the one. He was. That's all he ever shot. A 200 grain bullet.
Because this happened before, I just want to ask you, what kind of rifle do you have?
Him.
You and him.
30-06 Remington.
Remington 760.
Yeah.
Pump
Game
gun.
master.
Pump gun.
Yeah.
You had one.
Sim had one.
Sim
I bought
had
one for
Yeah, I
Bob.
never
I
had
one for
one.
Rick. All of them had 760.
That's what Guy
Game
used.
master.
He started that.
Yeah.
Because of my arm, I couldn't shoot near,
I said, "What's
near
that?
as well as the rest of
Great
them.
bully." Oh, he said, "You got to have 200 grain." I did that for probably the last ones I ever bought were probably 200 grain.
I was determined to earn enough money that I could buy a shotgun. I wanted an autoloader. When I was 18 years old, I finally got enough money put together to buy a Remington autoloader, and I still have it. That's what I always hunted with. I thought maybe I had an advantage that I could get hunting anywhere near as well as they could, because I could never get the gun up and shoot straight. And I always tried to shoot faster than I was on target, so half the time I wasn't shooting anywhere near where I should have been hunting. But that was my first gun, and then I think Guy probably did talk me into a 30-06 rifle that I used.
Guy used to have that little 20 gauge featherweight. Ithaca. That's how I hunted with.
Your dad had the
that was
Ithaca
good little.
too,
yeah.
You could carry that like a pistol. That was that was a good pheasant gun.
Well, my dad, you guys talked a little bit earlier about him. I think I never considered him a great deer hunter. I mean, but he hunted deer. He shot deer and things like that.
Yeah.
But he seemed to be with a shotgun.
Oh yeah, pheasant.
Deadly with a shotgun.
He could handle a shotgun for pheasants.
In fact, he was so
And
good.
always at the end of the cornfield when the pheasants come out, he was there. You got there, he was there.
He was that good a shotgunner that he shot me.
He shot you.
Yeah, I still have a pellet in my leg that he shot me with. It was almost by my knee. It's almost down at my ankle now, and still in my.
How'd that happen? Was he shooting at a rabbit or
I
something?
didn't know. We were hunting at. If you went toward the Crossroad Farms from Jeff's house, on the right side there's a little hump in there, and there's a stone quarry. I remember we were hunting around that, and I think it was Al and me and Dad. I don't know if you were along or not, or that was before you, but we were hunting in there, and as usual, your dad got to the end of the cornfield and ahead of us and shot in the row and shot me. So, there were BBs everywhere. I could hear them hitting the corn stalk, and one of them hit me. It didn't hurt. But the BB stayed under my skin, and I never took it out. But I accused him badly. I tore him all up, giving him hell for shooting me. And it kept sinking ever since. It started right below the knee. And over the years, I don't know if it's a gristle or what holds it in place, but it's down. I think I can still find it in my ankle. So anyway, I give him credit for shooting me. But,
Do you remember the time I shot you with the BB gun?
yeah,
Huh?
I remember
In
that.
the pasture, he wanted to see how far they shoot, so he went way down and then shoot. And Then he'd go along, shoot again. Shoot again. I left him and I was shooting off to the side. When he got, finally I stung him. I threw the gun on the ground and took off. I strung him pretty good. I left him get too close.
Did Al have to get involved to protect you?
No, he
then?
wasn't in on that. But I remember throwing somebody from town left the BB gun there, I think, wasn't it? We never had a BB gun.
Yeah, we were
I
never
remember throwing the gun down. I took all I knew I was getting the BB.
That was probably a damn good move.
You know where your dad hunted for deer up here almost every year?
Up back
And
here
we'd
in
go
the
up over
field.
the hill and they'd drop him off there where the gate went in to the open fields.
What I remember is
And then he went in there and somebody shot a buck out in the open field and then they flipped coins.
Yeah.
And he said the guy that won was with him and he never shot. The guy was standing alongside him and he said he won the flip of the coin and Greg said, well, he never fired his gun. Yeah, he used to drop him. Me and Guy would drop him off and he'd go in there every year.
well, he'd end up out with Guy then.
I did.
I did too. I would go in. I mean, when I first came up, I would go in with Guy. We're talking about there's a pipeline here that runs along above camp, and fire road that goes in, and we go back that fire road probably a mile to above Polick.
Yeah.
And hunt there, and then my dad would start where you said, and he'd work his way back there usually till noon or something.
For years,
like that.
I'd walk up here from camp, and then from here till like 9 o'clock. I did that for years. 9 o'clock, I'd start walk. I'd walk all the way out to Guy, all the way out to the back of Polick.
Your dad used to do that too.
My dad did that.
He did the
and
same thing.
You basically hunted above camp here.
I was too lazy to walk that far.
The theory was at 9 o'clock they'd be all back in the big woods and they were not here in the fields anymore. And I know for years I walked across up through the orchard.
I probably hunted for 10 or 15 years in those 5 trees up there at the highest point in the gas line.
Yeah, and you were 200 yards up from Al.
Yeah. Not that far.
Not that far.
Not anywhere. He was. If you know where you know where Al used to hunt.
Yeah.
And if you just went up over the hump where you got on the flat, on the left side were I think 5
cherry trees. You used to say. I
and
remember.
stayed in the middle of those 5 cherry trees.
Yeah.
And I almost every year I'd get a shot at a deer, and they'd push them up to me from down in the bottom along the road, and I remember one year. They got across, and the pipeline. I was right next to the pipeline, and the guys that would hunt back end that were here. What's the name of the property where they hunt behind us? But anyway, they would push them to me from that side, and whoever was hunting down in Mitchell's at the time, we didn't even know it was Mitchell, and would push them to me. One year I shot a buck and a doe in one shot. I shot the buck, and when I went over and looked, there was a doe laying next to it. You didn't know I shot the doe.
Talk a little bit about Al, maybe. I think Al's the one that used to always say you walk backwards coming out, so they think you were going in, right?
Yeah.
What else can you say about Al and hunting?
Al always had, when we had meals up here, when we had big turkey meals, when he left in the morning, he had a whole big plastic bag full of chicken bones and wing bones and breast bones
and the neck.
And the neck.
He always had the neck, yeah.
Climb into a tree stand, and there'd be chicken bones scattered 10 feet around the bottom of that tree. You could always find him with the chicken bones or whatever the bones they were eating. Yeah.
Al had a really bad accident.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little.
The accident that he was in school?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was, I think a junior. I think it was a junior. The ag crew, we always, our classes, our homerooms were always in the old schoolhouse at Cornwall across the tunnel. There was a tunnel between was it Route 322 or what went through there?
419.
Yeah, and no, I think it was. I think it was 322.
It might have been 322.
322. It came down from the Methodist church down to the Catholic church.
Yeah.
That was 322. But we had that whole old school building to ourselves, other than home ec. So we always had our home classes there, and we had to go for the academics to the other side, which I didn't go very often. So at lunchtime, they would all jump in a car and the Mace boys had the car, and it was a big old Dodge with the headlights that stuck up out of the fenders and running boards and spare tires on the back or something. But they'd run over to Miners Village to Medley's store and get soft drinks and pretzels and junk food. And then at the last minute, they'd barrel out of there to come back to get to school before the bell rang. And they probably had to be moving pretty good because they never were back on time. But anyway, when they're coming back down over the hill above the gate where you went into the Methodist church home, or at that time it's called Buckingham, there was a picket fence on the left side, and they come down there that fast in a rain and lost it and ran into the picket fence, and they knocked off the posts, and the 2x4s that held the pickets came through the windshield. Well, before I get to there, it came through the windshield, but before that happened, before they left the store over there, and there were more kids than you could seat inside, so they had to sit a kid on each headlight on the fenders, and some had to stand on the running board on the sides, and they'd have a whole carload of 8, 9 kids, and came flying down that hill, and the 2x4 came through the windshield, and Al had conned the guy, Bud Whitman, who was in the seat, to come out, and he wanted to tell him something, and when he did, Al ran in and took his seat in the front seat, and Bud Whitman had to sit on the front fender around the headlight. Anyway, when the 2x4 came through the windshield, it pinned him against the seat and tore out the upper part of his right lung, broke his collarbone, and busted up some other stuff inside. And he bled badly, and they didn't think they were going to, for about 2 weeks, they didn't believe they were going to be able to keep him alive. And then some surgeon came back from the Second World War in the Pacific and operated on him and brought him around. They took a piece of his lung out, fixed his collarbone, and sewed him up, fixed the ribs, and sewed him all up, and he had a scar that came all the way up across his shoulder. And that festered for probably 6 months to a year before that all healed up.
I think of him the maddest I ever seen Al up here was the time Jeff shot that buck on top of the Laurel and the Bear Lodge.
Yeah.
And Cork rode him down over, and Al was all the way down and missed out on all the action.
Yeah.
The deer didn't run where he thought they were going. He was mad that day. He bitched for a couple of days about that.
That was Jeff's first buck, I believe.
Yeah.
Cork got on his back and held the antlers and came down over the hill in the snow. Like a sled.
Rode him down like
It was the steepest part. It's right around from the clear cut to the Laurel, between there and the Laurel.
But the last places I hunted mostly was out here on the flat. I don't know if either you or Mike or somebody that hunted with me on that.
You took me. I killed my first buck with you.
On that
and you asked me, do you know how to gut a rabbit? And I said, no. He said, you're lucky. I think you would have left me.
I don't remember that. But I figured out a way to climb a big maple tree, I think it was up in there. And I could sit very comfortable. There were limbs coming out everywhere, and I could sit on one limb and put my feet on the other limb and hang my gun right against the trunk of the tree on a little knob or something that was hanging out there. And I could sit very comfortably in that tree. And then I was thinking it was Mike, but it was you. It was
me.
Your dad doe hunt. I don't remember him doe hunting.
Me?
Your dad.
No, not much.
I don't remember him coming up here doe hunting. I never did either.
No.
You remember we used to come up with the doe permits and throw them in the fireplace.
Yeah.
Did that for a couple of years.
Yeah, he would get permits so that other people didn't shoot him or stuff.
Yeah.
I remember we shared one up here one time. Do you remember that one?
no.
Came to me first, and I shot it, and it hit it right near the neck.
Yeah.
And he turned around, and he stood up on his hind legs, I thought, and he turned around and he ran right towards where I knew you were. And next you shot, and he went down.
Yeah.
And when we looked, the holes were right next to each other. And you said, okay, it's your buck. I said, no, it's not. You shot him last. I made you tag him. You weren't happy.
You wouldn't take it.
I wouldn't tag him. You had to tag him then. I said, you.
I don't remember
ended it. So.
But Wilmer would usually organize the hunts that we had up in the back here, and he'd start right up in the back and post people like where I was at those trees. And I know we're around where the side hill was before you got out to the open field, all the way around there. I remember a crew from Morgantown, he'd have 3 or 4 guys lined up across there. And somebody always got good shooting out there.
Well,
and most of it came from the guys hunting that drove.
I think what you were talking about, Glassmeyer.
I couldn't think of Glassmeyer. And those guys would drive and drive hard. And they'd push those deer. Either they came where I was along that side, or they came along the other side of that hillside. And I remember 3 or 4 Wilmer's crew that came from Morgantown would get bucks over along there. That was always a good spot, and somebody always pushed them to us without us having to do any work. So that used to be good hunting without having to go very far.
Yeah. You guys are pretty consistent right here behind camp.
Yeah,
every year they got deer up there.
Look how many buck Pete Nelson shot up there. He'd always hunt right at the corner of the wire fence.
Yeah.
Every year, that's the same spot. He shot a couple buck there.
Yeah. And they shot quite a few bucks up in the back there in the archery season, too.
So I'm just going to kind of wrap this up here I just kind of have one more general question. You guys growing up, it was not an easy life. You guys didn't have money.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
It was perfect, the way it should be.
Yeah,
the way
sure.
it should be. Family.
Family.
And hard work.
And hard work. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it wasn't a good life, but it was hard work.
Yeah.
And the stories I've heard at least always seemed like your dad was fairly serious.
Oh, I don't know. He just told you once. He didn't tell you the second time. Yeah.
But you guys were all, you brothers.
Yeah.
Were all so fun loving and so. Just my experience growing up around you guys, and I never knew Wilmer. I knew Guy very little. Obviously, my Pop Grant, and Al, and you, and the women too. I mean, Verna and Sarah and Edna. You guys were all.
You never heard. I don't know that I ever heard there was any hard feelings between the women or the men.
Right. Surely there had to be differences, and surely you had to.
There was a little ones, but
can,
nothing really big.
Assess I
don't know that ever hard
dedicated
feelings.
Mother. I think,
one didn't talk to the other one, didn't talk to this one. That never happened.
Yeah,
that never happened.
So, so do you think the fun lovingness, did that come from your mother, or was it?
Well,
did it come from your? I mean, you guys were always joking, always playing tricks, always messing around, in a loving way, and it never.
There was nothing else that was fun. We got a lot of enjoyment out of heckling each other.
No.
It's probably caused us some grief since then, but in having habits of doing things that probably irritated other people. But I think we always got along well and enjoyed each other's family relationships. I think we did good.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I can't think of any family that I know of, anybody I grew up with, who every year we went to Washington D.C. and you, Richard, you're and your crew came down with us. Cork's crew, Al's crew came down. Sim would come in from Pittsburgh to go to D.C. We'd have
all started with your mother's funeral, I think, wasn't it? Your mother.
Well, that was
June died. I think was when we first.
Well, that was Noble's Grove. I think we started doing that.
Noble's Grove was another trip everybody would come in for. Yeah. There was always a picnic before that, the Brubaker reunion. Everybody would come in for.
Yeah,
we'd have the Christmas parties. We'd have deer camp where we'd see each other.
Yeah, we did a good job of trying to get together. And
it was pretty. It was family, definitely number one.
No, number one.
Yeah, that's true. We always supported each other. We fought with each other a lot when we were kids, and I think that's probably normal.
But don't forget there were scraps going on too. But
absolutely.
That was so they were family scraps.
Well, Mike always says, you guys were had to have been quick to forgive.
You took your beating and you lost today, so maybe you'll win tomorrow.
Right.
That was true. So I think it was an excellent family life, I think. But I think our mother had a large effect, and she had a personality that let a lot go by and concentrated on what was important. And I think between her and our father did an excellent job of discipline. I don't remember him ever hitting me. I remember him kicking my ass a few times.
Kicked my butt one time.
And he'd twist your ear. If you got out of hand, and he'd twist your ear, and he'd twist it where it hurt. But all he had to do, he'd give you one warning. If you were misbehaving, everybody lived in the kitchen. Nobody lived in any of the rest of the rooms, other than if you had company, we would start a fire in the middle room. But other than that, everybody lived in that one big kitchen.
Somebody asked me a couple of years ago about who was in charge, Mom or Pop, and I said I don't know. I said maybe Mom ruled the roost.
All I know is
I don't know. I ever heard them argue. Never heard any of them, either one say anything like talk back or anything to each other. Did you?
No,
Never. I could never say that for my life. Never. So.
Task at hand.
I don't know that anyone that they ever had bad words to each other.
No, and I think with 4 or 5 kids and carrying on in that one kitchen at night after supper. I don't know how you ever kept all of us behaving, but all he had to do was look at you, and you knew that was your warning.
Yeah.
And if he had to talk to you a second time and got up, you barreled ass for that wood chest in the back of the stove because you knew you were going to get. And the biggest thing he'd do would be twist your ear. But he never did any other. I don't ever remember. The only one of any of us I ever saw getting whipped was Al.
He's the only one I ever seen get disciplined. I seen Mom hit him with the dishcloth one time. He would always talk back. He had to get the last word. And she hit him with the dishcloth one time.
Al never always.
He always had to get the last word in.
And he was good at it. He's just enough to irritate. He wasn't all that bad. He was just enough to.
He enjoyed that.
It's different. Yeah, he got.
My sense was he enjoyed that. If he could get you upset, he was happy.
Yeah.
So, but he was the only one I think that I saw ever get disciplined by either of our parents. So I think we did good. And with all the cooking that she would start on a Wednesday and start to bake Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning, and they would load that old big Buick funeral car with baked stuff. Like they had boxes at the grocery store used to get cookies in these big cardboard boxes, and she'd fill these with those double layer cakes. And by the time she got to market and got in and set up, there was a big crowd of people all around her booth. And they rang the bell, I think, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They couldn't sell anything until 1. And probably by 2:30, she had sold probably 90% of what she brought in there. Like all kinds of cakes, all kinds of cookies, all kinds of vegetables out of the gardens, clean chicken.
Were you ever there? Were you ever there? I was only there one time.
Yeah, I think I went quite a few times.
I went to the Wynn and got a hot dog.
I thought, talking about hot dogs, I always thought hot dogs were only rich people could afford hot dogs.
It had a little window there. Was it a restaurant in the back or something?
There's an ice you could get ice cream through the window.
I got a hot dog.
That's the only time I ever remember stealing money off of my mother. And I stole a nickel or something like that there out of her money box and went over to the butcher's booth and bought a hot dog out of the box. They had a box in there with hot dogs in it. And I bought a hot dog and stood there and ate it right in front of the... So the guy that had the meat shop knew my parents really well. And he talked to my mother and said, don't you feed your kids any hot dogs or something along that line? And she said, no, why? He said, well, your son came over here and bought one hot dog and stood in front of the stand and ate the hot dog. So as soon as he left, she turned to me and said, where'd you get the money to buy the hot dog? And she had me dead to right. And I caught the first time I didn't get away for 15 minutes. Stealing money off.
Yeah, I did. I got in trouble too when they used to have an order a bill at the Wenger store.
Oh yeah.
And she'd always tell me if she needed something, I'd pick it up and just put it on her list.
He had a bill.
And one time I bought a pack of tasty cakes, and I ate them on the way home. So when what did he come once a week? Did he come around to the truck?
Yeah.
And anyhow,
well, that wasn't him.
She called me on the carpet. Somebody bought a pack of tasty cakes. That would have been me. But that wasn't allowed anymore.
I remember we always ate lunches that she packed for us, and it was never anything that you bought out of stores. There's always something she made her own. And I remember she didn't have enough bologna or something to make her lunches for one of the days before she went to market, and she sent me up to Wengert's store to buy a quarter pound of bologna. And I loved that stuff. I couldn't believe it. By the time I got home, there were only 2 slices left. I felt so guilty. She had to send me back again for another quarter pound.
And at lunch in school, we always had homemade cakes. I'd take them homemade cakes to school too. We'd sit there. Almost everybody did. Nobody ate in the cafeteria. Nobody had any money. I'd get that homemade cake out. Somebody'd have a tasty cake. I'd swap. They wanted my homemade cake, and I wanted their tasty cakes.
You guys ever swipe stuff? When she was getting ready for market, take pies and stuff.
No, a lot of times, all our baking stuff, I know a lot of times I had to stand and help wash the women help wash their dishes up and stuff.
Saturday afternoons, the ones that were at home,
all the dirty jobs.
And we had pots
and off to the little
cake
guy.
pans all over the place, and they were a mess to wash. I hated washing it.
And then they'd have a list of things we had to do that day.
Yeah,
and then the kids from the town would come down knowing parents are at market. So then we'd be fighting and who knows what, playing ball, bike racing. So about 4 o'clock before they got ready, we had to get everybody to help get the work done real quick before they got done.
You had to clean out the whole horse stable. You had to load the manure on wheelbarrows and haul it across the yard, probably 50 yards. How far was it from the horse stable to the manure
The
pump?
bike races through the hallway.
Yeah,
our barn didn't have a 4-bay in the front, it had a hallway with a big push door at each end, so you could have a racetrack through that hallway. And in the middle of the hall was a manure spreader, so it got down to about 4 feet. So there's some pretty interesting courses going through there.
Wet spots in there, you had to run through the water holes and spray each other with water when you're...
The barnyard was nothing but round cobblestones, and everybody had their knees scun up.
We were always in trouble when they came home from market. We never got done what we were responsible for.
Yeah, it was always a big push in the afternoon.
Any other questions?
You run out of battery.
I told Rachel, when I heard you guys were coming up, I wanted to get up here because I texted her on Saturday, sitting here listening to you guys talk. I said, "This is old school deer camp to me. This is what I grew up with and I love." And we, me and my brothers will always romanticize the days of all the brothers being in camp. So I'm thankful that we got this time together. Whether we recorded today or not, that was not what I came up here for. It was just being up here and listening to you guys talk. What we're exploring mostly, and this is kind of where I was going earlier, was the lineage of family. How we got to family being so important to Michael and I and Matt and I. There's so many families who I know in my generation who don't even necessarily talk to their brothers.
Exactly. And that's what I say. There was never that I remember anybody, bad words, anyone saying anything. And maybe kidding and carrying on it, but nothing serious.
And not even from a standpoint of, I'm fighting with my brother, so I'm never going to talk to him again. Just they weren't close. They didn't. A 9-year age gap between me and my oldest brother, and I talked to Matt 3 times a day. Yeah. I talked to Matt on my drive to work. I talked to Matt, and that's a downhill effect from you guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And, you know, to sit here and think that I'm sitting in a cabin, to think that I went with my great uncle, he took me to Canada for a week, you know, that I looked forward to Knoebels and Washington, D.C. with you guys every year. That's so unheard of in my generation. And it's just how close you brothers were and kept us downstream so close.
Well, do you remember Reverend Booker?
I don't know. He was.
You remember Reverend Booker?
Yes,
you remember at our mom's funeral? He broke me up that time. He said, of all the people that he met in his life, that family's number one.
It was so special to be here with you guys, and I know I'm speaking for my brothers who are not here. They wish they could have been here.
If I said something I shouldn't, you could just do
there's
beep,
nothing.
beep,
No,
beep.
no, nothing.
You
So
just beep that out.
no, I thank you guys.
I thought
Thank
I'd
you.
be halfway home by now.
Thank you guys for sitting down and talking. That's
You're welcome.
All right, so there it was. What do you think?
Great. I mean, you did a great job editing. I know there was a lot of material there, but I'm real excited for it.
I moved a couple stories around to try to get some of the chronology to flow a little bit more, but
So it was herding cats at times. It felt like.
well, I think any conversation with more than one rule is hard to keep going in a straight line.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like I said, I'll take. I think I'm going to make a new page on the website that's just like family recordings or something, and then I can put that whole 1989 tape on there, and I can put this whole recording on there, so anybody that wants to hear them unedited, can check it out that way. But otherwise, unless you got anything you want me to do, I think we'll just run with this episode the way it is.
No, it sounded great, and I thank you for going through that. I'm sure it was time consuming.
All right. Well, just got to add some outro stuff to remind people where the website is and about Instagram and socials and all that other stuff. But anyway, thanks again for going up there, and man, it was really great to have that stuff recorded with Uncle Dick and Uncle Sim. I really appreciate them doing it with us. Been fun to listen to and edit, and hopefully we get another chance to record some more. So
Yeah, for sure.
all right, I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Later.
Hunting and fishing, the great outdoors, mixing history, laughter, love, and folklore, creating memories with family and friends. These are the trophies that matter in the end. Outdoor Ruhls.